Thursday.
Now then, let's say hello to tonight's guests, who will guarantee put a smile on your face. It's Steve Coogan, Chris McCausland and Anneka
I have to say, I mean, forget Taylor Swift. Chris, you're having a moment sat here right now in between these wonderful guests, right?
I mean, this is what I love about getting to do telly, is that getting to meet people I've never met, never worked with before, and Steve and Anneka are huge parts of my TV watching life, you know.
Yeah.
So yeah, this is a treat.
It's a perfect sandwich for you, Chris. Steve,
Anneka's going to give me a lift home in her helicopter.
Yeah. I've literally got it revving round the back. We've got plans, haven't we, Chris?
Absolutely.
Yeah, we're going for a drink at the Dog and Duck afterwards.
Nice.
Straight home in a helicopter.
There you go. Lovely.
Yeah.
Steve, you're fresh from Alan Partridge's new television show, which we'll talk about shortly. But first, let's have a look at what Alan was up to last time we saw him in a TV studio alongside his sidekick, Simon.
I think we have Stephen Tent on line 4. Stephen. Go to... Steve? Go to emails?
Let's do it.
Let's do it. Let's fall in love. Bear with me.
I wish there was a bear with you. He'd probably make a better job of it than you. Seriously, mate. Make it sound like Fort Knox.
Fort. Stephen Fort. It's not Stephen Tent on line 4. It's Stephen
Fort on line 10. Right.
Well, let's go find him. Stephen Fort on line 10. Just missed him, I think.
Here's what we've got coming up for the rest of the show.
Oh, so familiar. That was this time, of course. Now, Alan's latest book, Big Beaker, is out in paperback. Does Alan prefer hardback or paperback?
I think he's very much a hardback person. I think he thinks it makes him sound more prodigious and more intellectual. But yeah, it's just a cheaper version of the hardback for people who
exactly
want to buy the hardback. Really.
Exactly. So, where does this book find Alan, and what stories can we look forward to?
For those who follow him closely, and there are a few die-hard, strange people out there who do, he was fired from the BBC in the fiction. I've not been fired by the BBC yet. Right. But yeah, he's been fired, so he has to go and try and find a project to try and reinvent himself. And he happens upon the idea of renovating a lighthouse, and tells you about this in his novel. So and it becomes a metaphor for his life. And so anyone who wants to sort of top up on Partridge before the next TV incarnation can go and read that.
Yeah, Big Beacon.
Yeah, exactly. And you said it there. You know, there are Partridge fans that are so into it. They remember all of these tiny little details, including a detail that you put in your 2011 memoir that said that my mum or Pepsi were responsible for your Toblerone habits.
The thing is, you may well be right. I've just forgotten. There's so many people. I mentioned real people, and then I bump into them. They go, "Oh, you mentioned me," and I go, "Did I?" Yeah, you know, like I mentioned. I mentioned having a fight with Noel Edmonds in a car park. That didn't actually happen. So
I know people going up to my mum still going, "What you did with those Toblerones and Alan Partridge is out of order." Yeah.
But I suppose, you know, when you've played a character for 30 years. It's hard to remember everything, isn't it? And how much of Alan is in Steve? That sounds wrong, but you know what I mean.
Yes, I know what you mean, yes. Well, let's skip over that really quickly. When I started out 30 years ago, it was very different. But as I've grown older, Alan and I have become closer and closer and closer in who we are. So I think there's almost a complete overlap in the Venn diagram. So I think by about this time next year, I will have completely become Alan.
There was a fantastic picture that I think we've got, and I just want you to explain this picture.
So, the other day on set, because we're halfway through filming the new BBC series, I showed up on set in my shirt, and the shirt they had for me to put on as Alan was that shirt, the same shirt. And I thought, I really have. That's it. It's that, I think I took mine off and put the other one on, even though they're identical.
Yeah.
Just for psychological reasons.
I like when you set it up, though, you say that you and Alan are becoming closer and closer, like you're meeting in the middle, but really you're just becoming Alan Partridge entirely.
Yeah, so basically, I'm just becoming Alan Partridge. It's easier. I just say stuff. In fact, when we're writing with the other writers, I try and say stuff as Alan that's funny, and then I just say stuff as myself, and they just write that down as well.
Anneka, we know that you're a big fan of Alan Partridge.
I am, actually.
You've also done, obviously, lots of live television.
Yeah.
Have you had your own Partridge moment?
I've had quite a few, as you can imagine, over a 40-year career. Actually, well, as you were saying that, it did remind me sitting on this sofa because I used to host TVAM, breakfast television, in the 80s. And one morning I was interviewing Herb Albert, who brought in his tuba to play, and I just turned to him and said, "Now, Herb, you've got something very interesting between your legs that you'd like to show us this morning." And I carried on with the interview, and the crew collapsed. I mean, they actually left the studio and had to reconvene in the corridor.
It's always
so filthy-minded.
We just carried on very professionally, and we talked about his lovely tuba.
Okay.
Steve, you achieved so much in your acting career. No, no, but we were actually discussing Philomena. You were talking about.
I love Philomena.
Oh, so
it's
did
such
I.
a brilliant film.
Philomena, it's so fantastic. And more recently, The Reckoning.
Yes.
But which was absolutely fantastic. But next, you're heading to stage, right?
Well, in the autumn, I'm doing the stage version of the famous film Dr. Strangelove, that starred Peter Sellers and was directed by Stanley Kubrick. And the Kubrick estate have allowed us Armando Iannucci and Sean Foley to adapt it for the stage. So I'm playing 4 roles every night. 8 shows a week, so that's going to be pretty demanding.
You need a lot of stamina for that one.
I'll have to make sure I have my Weetabix.
It's the new thing, isn't it? Just to get everyone to do several roles, like Eddie Izzard doing the entire Hamlet.
Yeah,
it's just cheap, isn't it?
It's. I'd love to get paid 4 times if I can.
Saving money.
I love it. I love it. Anneka Rice, Alan.
Steve is pushing himself professionally and creatively.
Steve, you've got a new agent in Anneka Rice now, which is brilliant.
Well, yeah, if you can get me 4 fees, I'd be delighted.
Yeah, exactly. And you can catch Alan Partridge. Big Beacon is out right now, and you can watch Steve's powerful performance in The Reckoning on iPlayer.
Now we hear, Ms. Rice.
Oh, Ms. Rice.
That you are quite an artist yourself.
Well, I do love a painter. I'm part of Maggie Hambling's masterclass, basically. So I meet up with her every Thursday with a gang of people.
Look at this.
And paint with her. And in fact, I've got a programme. I've just made a programme where I take her around Suffolk and we look at all the places that have sort of made her paintings. He does these huge seascapes from the North Sea and everything, and that goes out on Radio 4 next week, actually. But no, I do paint, but I have tried to get something in the summer exhibition.
Have you?
Failed.
Well,
I tried
next
once.
year,
Yeah,
But it is a wonderful exhibition to go to.
Yes.
It's just great to see people from everywhere having
such a
go.
range.
Such a lovely range.
100%. Well, look, there is something that if people are wondering what to do this weekend, what they can get involved in, what they can, watch, what have they got?
Well, it was very, very heartwarming because this time last year on the One Show we launched the big Help Out.
Yes.
And 7.2 million people took part, and basically it's a way to volunteer, have a go at volunteering, be part of something bigger than yourself, find out about the power of the collective, which is so immense. And it was such a triumph that it's back again this weekend. And so if you were thinking, I know we're going to the Dog and Duck, Chris, but if we didn't want to do that and we wanted to swipe right on an app this weekend, there's a fantastic Big Help Out app. And it can take you to places you just wouldn't know. You can have an adventure this weekend. And that's the joy of volunteering, because you're out in the community, you're meeting people you would never meet normally. It could be the biggest adventure of your life. It could change your life. I mean, I've been volunteering for literally 40 years. I love it. And it's not just because you really feel you're giving something back, you're making a mark on the world, but it's what it gives you, because you're suddenly part of a gang. You know, you're part of a team, and that's pretty special.
I've seen lots of posters around where we live about the Big Help Out this weekend.
Yeah.
What sort of things can people be doing?
Well, there's all sorts of things. I'm going to give you 4 things.
Go on.
England, Scotland, Northern Ireland and Wales. In England, you can get in touch with Food Cycle. Now, they create lovely food for community get-togethers. And so they're looking for people who can cook or who might like to host an event. And if you just want to go along and meet the team and perhaps go back another time, it doesn't matter. This is a sort of getting to know each other weekend this weekend. In Scotland, this is something you might be interested in, Chris. You can join a family fun run for guide dogs. What does that sound like?
Is everyone going in the right direction? Or are they all...
It could be chaos, couldn't it? They do encourage everyone to actually dress as a dog, but that's at Glasgow Green, Scotland.
How many dog poos just standing on the way around that, I suppose?
I mean, just that event in itself, that has got to be worth a visit, don't you think, if you're in Glasgow? In Northern Ireland, there's tree tugging at Argyre Mosses. You can have a lovely day out removing invasive saplings, which is lovely, a day out in the fresh air. In Wales, on Sunday, at Clangattock Community Woodlands, they need your help tree felling and planting and just mucking out in the outdoors. I mean,
lovely thing to do as a family as well.
And that's just four things that and there's hundreds and hundreds. It's all on this app.
It's such a nice initiative.
It's such a nice thing to do.
Very nice. Thank you so much. If you do want to get involved with a big help out this weekend, then you can download their app, as Anneka said, or head to our website to find all the details there.
Yeah, and someone taking on a challenge next year is Chris McCausland, because not happy with one recent sellout run of his stand-up show, he's about to do it all over again.
Before we chat more to Chris, here's why he's always putting a smile on our faces, but probably not his wife's.
She says I'm not very good at communicating in spite of my job. She says I'm not very good at discussing difficult issues, emotions. She said to me that she thinks the only reason I hate Facebook is because it allows me to respond to posts with 3 more emotions than I actually have. Didn't know what to say to that, so I just gave her a thumbs up.
You are back on the road with Yonks. Now then, and this
is hard. This is following Anneka. She's here for selfless reasons to get people to volunteer. And now it's, Chris, you've got tickets to sell.
But this entertains people, cheers them up. So it's all right. It's all for a good cause.
Chris.
So the last one was, you know, sort of family life-led. But this one is going back to your comedy roots a bit, isn't it?
Yeah, so the last tour finished last May, and it was very, very heavy on, you know, being a dad, family life, you know, all of that kind of stuff. And probably a lot more personal. And this one it's about it's about loads of things and nothing at the same time. It's... You know, through the 90s, the comedy I like, Steve, is, you know, you go and watch somebody and there's no theme to it. It's just loads of different subjects, you know, hopping from one to the other. And so in this, I'm talking about everything from, you know, from Shakespeare to Arnold Schwarzenegger and turnips to AI, really. And it's... I mean, no one's going to learn anything from it. There's nothing deep. There's no politics. There's no deep messages. I've got no opinions on anything. But it will be funny. So if you want to laugh for 2 hours, that's what you're going to get out of it.
Sounds
fantastic,
good.
Fantastic. Well, look, so you're doing the tour as almost 2 legs, right?
Yeah, at the minute, maybe more. Who knows? But the second leg will be starting in January. Yeah.
So do you think, for those people that are wondering, like, are you going to try and tailor it after the first one to work out what really worked? Is the second leg the better one to go to? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, well, the first leg was, I mean, because of the nature of the show, you can chop and change and swap bits in and out, and it's you know, it's almost, you can treat it like a lucky dip, really, of stuff you want to talk about. So it evolved and it changed through that first leg anyway. So I'm sure I'll revisit it before I get back out on the second leg and freshen some bits up, and maybe I'll have a couple of new bits to stick in. But I mean, if you've already seen it, don't come again. That's what I'm saying. I don't want to go down that road. I don't want to be getting in trouble for that. Yeah, it's the same show, but you know, you've got to keep yourself sane, haven't you?
Yeah. Chris, people absolutely loved the sketch that you did with Lee Mack at the BAFTAs a few years ago. But, you know, when you were having trouble reading the autocue and all of that, it went viral, I think. Are you more comfortable now talking about yourself? You know, because you went through a phase where you didn't like talking about it a bit, but are you more comfortable now?
No, I think when I very first started stand-up, I didn't really do any material about being blind, and I think it was, you know, I got into comedy because I liked, you know, comedy in the 90s. You know, I had all the videos. You know, I'm not just saying it because he's here, but, you know, Steve, with his characters, Jack D, Alan Davis, Eddie Izzard, and...
But you like Me the best, right?
Absolutely, mate. Absolutely. And so I wanted to do that, you know.
Yeah.
It wasn't because I thought I had just something I can make a joke of for it. But also I didn't really think I had anything original to say about it. But the older you get, the more comfortable you get in your own skin and the more original kind of life experiences you have. So it does become a small part of the show, but you don't want to go on about things because you know, I talk about turnips in the new show, but if I did an hour and a half on turnips, people would be like, enough of the turnips, you know. So the same goes for anything, doesn't it?
Well, speaking of experiences, there are rumours, Chris, that you are going to be joining the cast of Strictly this year.
There?
We will not put you on the spot.
I haven't seen the papers.
Right, okay. If you were to take part, have you got much dancing experience, or would you be fresh?
I am a child of the 90s grunge scene, and I grew up with rock and metal and headbanging and mosh pits and crowd surfing. That is the extent of my
I literally can't wait to see this already.
Let's be honest, right? I don't think the BBC could afford the insurance.
Wow. Okay.
Could they? I mean, me on I'd take out 3 cameras a week.
Well, look, I mean, Anneka, you've done it before, and there were some of us were wondering. I mean, Steve, would Alan do Strictly if he was given the opportunity?
I wouldn't, but I think Alan most certainly would.
Yes.
Yeah, and would
But
take
you
it very
would love it,
seriously.
wouldn't he?
That's true. And because if I do, like I say, if the singularity occurs, then I might do it as Alan for I don't know. For comic relief or something, but not as me. No, thanks.
Would Alan wear a glittery all-in-one jumpsuit kind of vibe?
He wouldn't do it ironically or humorously. He'd want to win, and if he didn't, he would be very, very bitter.
It has to happen. It's too good. Yeah. Chris will be back on tour with his new stand-up show, Yonks, next year, and tickets are on sale right now.
Yeah, that's it for tonight. Thanks so much to all of our guests, Steve, Chris and Anneka.
I'll be back on Monday with Hollywood stars Austin Butler and Jodie Comer, and Morning Live will be back also on Monday after the 3-week break, 9:30 BBC One. Have a lovely weekend. Bye-bye.